The night was heavy with an unnatural stillness, as if the very air held its breath. The wind, usually a constant companion in the fields, vanished, leaving an eerie silence that enveloped the land like a thick fog of anticipation. In that oppressive quiet, something extraordinary stirred. Then, as if guided by an unseen force, the trees began to rotate slowly, their trunks twisting with a deliberate grace. It was a surreal dance, one that defied reason, as if they were searching for a hidden truth in the dark. The ground trembled, and a faint pulsating energy crackled in the air, hinting at a presence beyond comprehension. And just when it seemed the night couldn't grow any stranger, a brilliant flash illuminated the field, revealing patterns in the earth that had never been there before. What had happened here, and what had the trees discovered in their haunting, silent quest? A mystery awaited, one that would unravel the very fabric of reality itself. The night was heavy with an unnatural stillness, as if the very air held its breath. The wind, usually a constant companion in the fields, vanished, leaving an eerie silence that enveloped the land like a thick fog of anticipation. In that oppressive quiet, something extraordinary stirred. Shadows danced between the rows of corn, flickering at the edges of perception, while the distant hoot of an owl echoed through the darkness, a solitary reminder of the natural world that seemed to have been silenced. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely above a breath as she clutched her jacket tighter against the sudden chill that swept through her. The cold dug deep into her bones, wrapping around her like a shroud of unease. Beside her, Tom squinted into the darkness, his brow furrowing as he scanned the seemingly endless rows of corn. "Probably just the wind," he replied, though uncertainty laced his words. "But it's different tonight. Almost like it's waiting for something." The temperature dropped sharply, and a chill crept into the marrow of their bones, as if the earth itself were exhaling a cold sigh. The trees, stoic sentinels against the sky, stood motionless, their branches heavy with the weight of the night. Then, as if guided by an unseen force, they began to rotate slowly, their trunks twisting with a deliberate grace. It was a surreal dance, one that defied reason, as if they were searching for a hidden truth in the dark. The ground trembled, and a faint pulsating energy crackled in the air, hinting at a presence beyond comprehension. "Tom, look!" Sarah's voice rose in pitch as she pointed. "The trees, they're moving." He turned, astonished. That's not possible," he stammered, stepping backward, his heart racing. The shadows around them seemed to deepen, swallowing the light of the stars above. The air felt thick, heavy with the weight of something unspeakable. In the heart of this rural expanse, where the stars were usually bright and reassuring, a veil of darkness thickened, swallowing the familiar landscape. The smell of damp earth mixed with something metallic, sharp and unsettling, sending a jolt of unease through anyone who dared to step into the night. The silence was so profound that it felt alive, vibrating with the tension of the unknown. It was as if the very fabric of reality was being stretched to its limits, ready to snap and reveal whatever lay hidden beneath. An inexplicable humming filled the air, a sound that seemed to resonate not just in the ears but deep within the chest, synchronizing with the heartbeat of the earth itself. It was a low frequency, barely audible, yet it sent ripples of fear through the veins of those who stood in the fields, frozen in place. The cattle in the nearby barn grew restless, their low moans mixing with the unsettling atmosphere, creating an echo of confusion and dread that rippled through the night. "Something is definitely wrong," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "Should we call someone? We can't just stand here." "No!" Tom hissed, eyes wide with fear. "What if we draw attention to ourselves? We need to stay quiet." Then, just when it seemed the night couldn't grow any stranger, a brilliant flash illuminated the field, revealing patterns in the earth that had never been there before. The light was blinding, a sudden burst of luminescence that carved the darkness into sharp relief. The once familiar landscape transformed into a geometric puzzle, intricate shapes etched into the soil, as if the earth had been marked with the language of the cosmos. The symbols glowed faintly, pulsating in synchrony with the humming, inviting yet forbidding. What is that?" Sarah gasped, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hardly comprehend the sight before her, the symbols swirling and shifting as if alive. "I don't know," Tom whispered, his voice barely a sound. "It looks like some kind of message." What had happened here? What force had compelled the trees to twist and turn? And what had they discovered in their haunting, silent quest? The air crackled with anticipation, a palpable energy that hinted at a mystery waiting to unfold. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the ground, and the shapes danced along with the trees, flickering in and out of perception like fragments of a dream. The atmosphere thickened, pressing against the skin, as if something monumental was about to occur. A low rumble, almost like distant thunder, rolled across the fields, causing the ground to vibrate beneath the feet of those who dared to linger. It was a sound that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once, wrapping around the listeners and pulling them deeper into the unknown. "Do you feel that?" Sarah murmured, her eyes wide, her breath hitching in her throat. "It feels like the ground is alive." In the distance, a figure emerged, barely visible against the backdrop of the illuminated field. The silhouette was shrouded in mystery, a shadow amidst the light. It moved with an otherworldly grace, its presence both unsettling and magnetic. The figure paused as if aware of the eyes upon it, drawing the gaze of those who had witnessed the unfolding spectacle. "Tom, what is that?" she whispered, her voice trembling, fear and curiosity intertwining within her. "I don't know," he replied, his mind racing, "but we need to move. We shouldn't be here." In that moment, time seemed to stretch, the air thick with a sense of impending revelation. The trees continued their cryptic dance, spinning slowly, almost in communion with the figure that stood before the patterns in the earth. What connection did they share? What secrets were being whispered in the silence that enveloped them? As the light dimmed, the patterns on the ground began to shift, the shapes morphing into new configurations that seemed to tell a story older than time itself. The witnesses held their breath, captivated by the scene unfolding before them, a tapestry woven from threads of the unknown. The soil beneath their feet felt alive, as if it were breathing alongside the trees, a testament to the mysteries that lay buried within. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the light extinguished, plunging the field back into darkness. The trees ceased their movement, returning to their stoic positions, and the figure vanished, leaving only the lingering echoes of their presence. The silence returned, but it was no longer the same. It was charged with a sense of urgency, a whisper of what had transpired still hanging in the air. "What was that?" Sarah whispered, her voice shaking. "What just happened?" "I don't know," Tom replied, his heart racing. "But this was just the beginning." What had the trees discovered in their silent quest? As the witnesses stood in the aftermath, hearts pounding, they knew that this was just the beginning of a mystery that would unravel the very fabric of their reality. The night had transformed, and with it, the understanding of the world around them. A new chapter had begun, and the fields would never be the same again. The chill of the early morning air wrapped around the witnesses like an unyielding shroud, the remnants of the inexplicable event still reverberating in their minds. The silence hung heavily, almost palpable, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next act in this eerie play to unfold. Tom and Sarah stood at the edge of the expansive cornfield, the colossal stalks looming over them like sentinels, guarding secrets that were not meant to be shared. The moon, now a waning crescent, cast a ghostly glow over the landscape, illuminating the contours of the earth in an ethereal light that felt both inviting and foreboding. The air was thick with an electric tension, a sensation that prickled at their skin and made the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. Each rustle of the leaves seemed amplified, a sharp contrast to the stillness that had settled in the wake of the phenomenon. The once familiar sounds of the countryside had transformed into an unsettling symphony of whispers, an orchestra of the unseen. The low hum of the wind, previously a gentle caress, now carried with it an undercurrent of urgency, a call to pay attention to the unseen forces that lurked just beyond the veil of understanding. As Tom moved cautiously through the rows of corn, the crunch of the gravel path beneath his boots felt like an intrusion on the fragile stillness of the moment. He glanced back at Sarah, her wide eyes reflecting a mixture of fear and wonder. "Do you feel that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper as she took a step closer to him. "It's like the ground is alive." He nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon where the first hints of dawn began to bleed into the night sky. The dark blues melted into soft oranges and pinks, but the beauty of the sunrise did little to ease the tightening knot of anxiety in his stomach. "It's different," he replied, his voice low. "Like something's changed." As they walked deeper into the field, a low vibration pulsed through the earth, reverberating through their bodies like the distant echo of a heartbeat. It felt like a warning, a reminder that they were not alone amidst the rows of corn. With each step, the air grew heavier, infused with a metallic tang that stung the back of their throats. The scent was foreign, unsettling, as if the very essence of the earth had been altered by the events of the night. Then, without warning, a peculiar sound pierced the stillness, a low, resonant hum that seemed to pulse in time with the vibrations beneath their feet. It was an otherworldly frequency that resonated deep within their chests, making their hearts race faster. They exchanged a glance, each recognizing the fear reflected in the other's eyes. Whatever had happened was not yet finished with them. "Tom," Sarah murmured, her voice trembling as she pointed toward the far edge of the field. "Look." A faint light flickered in the distance, a soft glow that appeared to pulse rhythmically, like the breath of some great slumbering beast. The light was not harsh or glaring, but rather a soothing luminescence that beckoned them closer, drawing them into its embrace. Tom felt a magnetic pull toward it, an instinctive desire to know what lay beyond the veil of the ordinary. Yet the part of him that understood fear screamed to turn back. "Should we go?" Sarah asked, her voice laced with trepidation. Tom hesitated, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. "I don't know, but we can't just ignore it. We need to understand what's happening." He took a deep breath, steeling himself against the dread that threatened to consume him. "Let's move carefully." As they approached the source of the light, the world around them seemed to shift. The once familiar landscape transformed into something surreal, the rows of corn bending in a subtle dance, as if responding to the beckoning glow. The light intensified, illuminating the intricate patterns in the soil beneath their feet, patterns that were not there before, geometrical shapes that twisted and turned in mesmerizing forms, a language written in the earth itself. Tom felt a pressure in the air, a change in the atmosphere that made his heart pound like a drum. The sound that accompanied the light shifted to a series of rhythmic pulses, almost musical in nature, resonating with an ancient familiarity that tugged at the edges of his memory. It was as if the earth was speaking to them, revealing secrets long buried beneath its surface. "Do you see that?" Sarah gasped, pointing at the ground. "It's like a message." He knelt down, his fingers brushing against the cool soil. tracing the contours of the formations that seemed to shimmer under the glow. The shapes were unlike anything he had ever seen, spirals and fractals intertwined, creating a tapestry of the cosmos laid bare before them. A chill ran down his spine as he realized that these were no mere coincidences. They were deliberate, intentional. But by whom? And for what purpose? As they studied the formations, the air around them grew heavier, charged with an energy that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. The hum intensified, filling their ears with an almost deafening roar, yet it resonated in a way that felt oddly comforting, as if the universe was welcoming them into its fold. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them, a deep vibration that reverberated through the night, breaking the spell that had ensnared them. The light flickered, dimming momentarily before surging back to life, casting long shadows that danced along the cornstalks, mocking their fear. Tom and Sarah exchanged a frantic glance, the urgency of the moment snapping them back to reality. "We need to get out of here," Tom urged, his voice rising above the cacophony of sounds that surrounded them. "This is too much. We don't know what we're dealing with." But as they turned to leave, the pulsing light shifted, coalescing into a distinct shape. A shadow that loomed large behind them, a silhouette that seemed to stretch and twist against the backdrop of the glowing patterns. They froze, the weight of the unknown pressing heavily upon them as they dared to look back. The figure flickered in and out of existence, a mere suggestion of form that felt both menacing and mesmerizing. It was as if the very essence of the cosmos had taken shape, a being made of light and shadow, of possibility and dread. The air crackled with tension, a moment suspended in time as they stood on the precipice of understanding or madness. "Tom, what is that?" Sarah's voice quivered, the fear now palpable in her tone. "I don't know," he murmured, his heart racing, "but we need to go, now." As they turned to flee, the ground shook violently beneath their feet, a final warning that reverberated through the night. The world around them seemed to spiral into chaos, the cornfield transforming into a labyrinth of shadows and light, a realm where the impossible became tangible. And as they raced back toward the safety of their car, the figures in the field seemed to watch, their presence lingering in the air like a haunting melody, an enigma that wouldn't be easily forgotten. This was only the beginning. The field had awakened, and the secrets it held were far from over. The mysteries of the night would echo through their lives, intertwining with the very fabric of their reality, leaving them questioning everything they thought they knew. The shadows of the unknown loomed large, and the whispers of the cosmos beckoned them to return, to seek answers in the depths of the mystery that lay before them. As Tom and Sarah fled the cornfield, the pulsating light behind them flickered like a heartbeat, a rhythmic thrum that echoed in the very marrow of their bones. Each beat seemed to resonate not just in the air, but within their minds, intertwining with their thoughts and fears. Tom, leading the way, could feel the texture of the moment change. The atmosphere was thick, almost electric, charged with an energy that made every hair on his body stand on end. The night air was cool against their flushed skin, but beneath it lay an undercurrent of heat, as if the earth itself was simmering beneath the surface, alive and aware. The world around them distorted, shadows stretching and twisting as if trying to escape from an unseen hand. The once familiar landscape of the cornfield morphed into a surreal canvas, painted with strokes of light and darkness that danced tantalizingly at the edges of their vision. The cornstalks, towering and ominous, whispered secrets as the wind wove through them, creating a symphony of rustling leaves that was both soothing and unnerving. It was as if the very field was alive, a sentient being that observed their every move, calculating, waiting for the right moment to reveal its truths. "Did you hear that?" Sarah gasped, her breath hitching as she stumbled slightly. Tom turned, momentarily caught in the grip of her fear. The air had shifted, thickening with a metallic tang that clung to their tongues. A low hum vibrated through the ground, a sound that seemed to resonate not just in the air, but within the core of their very being. It morphed into a pulsing rhythm that seemed to beckon them closer, urging them to turn back, to confront the shadow that loomed behind them. "Keep moving," Tom urged, his voice strained as he gripped her hand tighter, their fingers interlocking in a desperate plea for reassurance. Each step they took felt heavier, as if the earth was pulling them back, reluctant to let them go. The shadows in the field stretched further, elongating into grotesque shapes that flickered in the corner of their eyes, taunting them with glimpses of something they could not comprehend. As they reached the edge of the field, the cacophony of sounds escalated. A dissonant chorus of low frequencies reverberated through the air, blending with the rustling of the stalks and the distant calls of startled animals. Suddenly, a bright flash illuminated the night, momentarily blinding them. They stumbled, the ground shifting beneath their feet, and for a split second, Tom felt an overwhelming sense of vertigo, as though he was suspended in time, caught between two realities. "Tom!" Sarah cried, her voice a piercing note in the chaos, pulling him back to the present. He blinked rapidly, trying to regain his bearings, and just as he did, the shadow seemed to solidify, taking on an almost humanoid shape, yet remaining an enigma, a being that was both familiar and alien. It hovered at the periphery of their vision, a distorted figure that flickered in and out like a faulty projection. The air grew thick with an electric tension, and he could feel the pulse of the light behind them intensifying, as if it were a heartbeat echoing through the universe. "Run!" Tom shouted, adrenaline surging through him. They darted towards their car, the headlights a beacon of safety amid the chaos. But as they ran, a chilling realization washed over them. The field was not just a backdrop. It was a living entity, a tapestry woven with threads of mystery and fear. The very ground they stood on vibrated with a resonance that felt like a warning, an invitation to delve deeper into the unknown. Suddenly, a soft, melodic hum filled the air, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It wrapped around them, weaving through the chaos, and for a fleeting moment, Tom was entranced. The sound was beautiful yet haunting, reminiscent of distant chimes or the gentle rustling of leaves in a soft breeze. It beckoned them to listen, to understand. And as they turned to face the field one last time, the silhouette shifted again, revealing a glimpse of something that could only be described as transcendent. A being made not of flesh, but of light, thought, and something beyond comprehension. "Did you see that?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling, eyes wide with a mix of fear and wonder. "Yeah," Tom replied, his heart pounding in his chest, "but we can't stay. We have to go." As they reached the car, the engine roared to life, slicing through the eerie silence that enveloped the field. They sped away, the landscape blurring around them. But the sensation of being watched lingered, an invisible weight that pressed against their backs. The pulsating light faded into the distance, but the memory of the encounter etched itself into their minds, a whispering echo of something that transcended the ordinary, a cosmic enigma that promised there was so much more to discover if only they dared to return. The drive home was filled with an unsettling quiet, punctuated by their breaths and the steady thrum of the tires against the asphalt. Each glance exchanged between them held unspoken questions, a shared understanding that their lives had shifted irrevocably. They had stumbled upon a reality that lay just beyond the veil of their understanding, a realm where the ordinary met the extraordinary, and where the secrets of the cosmos beckoned them to explore further. As they turned onto the familiar road leading to their town, Tom felt a tremor of uncertainty ripple through him. What had they witnessed? What had been revealed in the shadows of that field? The unknown loomed large before them, tantalizing and terrifying, and he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a deeper mystery, a cosmic riddle waiting to be unraveled. They had escaped the field, but the whispers of the cosmos were now woven into the very fabric of their existence, urging them to return and confront the shadows that awaited them under the moonlit sky. The air felt different as they drove away, thick with an unnameable tension that clung to their skin like a second layer. Sarah's heart raced, each beat echoing the pulsating light they had just witnessed. It was as if the very essence of the field had seeped into their souls, a haunting reminder of the inexplicable. The weight of their encounter pressed heavily on their minds, and the silence in the car became a living entity, wrapping around them, suffocating yet electric. Tom's knuckles were white as he gripped the steering wheel, the sensation of the road beneath the tires grounding him in reality, but the images that flickered through his mind were anything but real. The glowing silhouette, shimmering with an ethereal quality, replayed in vivid detail, a kaleidoscope of colors that defied earthly logic. Each flash of memory sent shivers down his spine, igniting a spark of fear that danced dangerously close to awe. "Tom," Sarah said, breaking the silence, her voice barely above a whisper, "what do you think it was?" Her question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of uncertainty and possibility. Tom glanced at her, his gaze flickering between the road and her face, where confusion and curiosity battled for dominance. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice betraying a tremor, but it felt alive, like it was trying to communicate. The thought sent a chill through Sarah, her breath hitching at the implications. What if the being was not merely an observer, but a harbinger of something far greater? The shadows of the field loomed large in her mind, a realm of possibilities entwined with dread. She remembered how the light had danced, forming shapes that were almost geometric in nature, patterns that felt familiar yet alien, like the echoes of a forgotten language. "Do you think it's still out there?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know," Tom repeated, uncertainty gnawing at him. I can't shake the feeling that it's connected to that field, like it's a doorway to something else." A sense of foreboding washed over them as they drove further from the scene. The familiar landscape blurred into an unrecognizable expanse, the mundane comfort of home feeling miles away. The fields they passed seemed to whisper secrets only they could hear, the rustling of corn in the breeze sounding like hushed voices calling them back. Each flicker of movement in the rearview mirror left them on edge, eyes darting to catch glimpses of shadows that danced just beyond the reach of their understanding. As they neared their small town, a sense of inevitability settled over them, a silent agreement that they would have to return. The thought filled them with both dread and excitement, a duality that made their hearts race in unison. They could not let go of what they had witnessed. It was a thread woven into the fabric of their lives, pulling them toward the unknown. When they finally reached home, the world outside felt eerily quiet, as if the very essence of the universe held its breath. The familiar creaks of their house felt alien, the shadows in the corners deeper and more mysterious. They entered, each sound amplified in the stillness, the soft click of the door, the rustle of their jackets as they hung them up, the rhythmic ticking of the clock that suddenly felt ominous. Tom turned on the TV, hoping to drown out the lingering echoes of their encounter. But the flickering images on the screen did little to ease the tension. News of mundane events filled the room, each report a reminder of how ordinary life felt in contrast to the extraordinary experience they had just shared. The anchors spoke of weather patterns, community events, and local politics. But Tom and Sarah were trapped in a reality that felt increasingly surreal. "Did you notice the way it moved?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling slightly. "It was deliberate, like it was part of a pattern we couldn't see." Tom nodded, recalling how the light had twisted and turned, forming shapes that defied logic. It was almost like it was drawing something, he mused. But what? And why? The questions lingered in the air like a thick fog, each one amplifying the mystery rather than illuminating it. As the night wore on, they found themselves drawn to the window, staring out into the darkness that wrapped around their home like a shroud. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an otherworldly glow over the landscape, and for a moment they could almost believe they were still standing in that field, watching the impossible unfold. Suddenly, a sound broke the silence, a low, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through the very core of the earth. It was a sound that felt familiar, echoing the frequency of the light they had witnessed. Their hearts raced as they exchanged a glance, fear and anticipation swirling in their chests. "What is that?" Sarah whispered, her breath hitching in her throat. "I don't know," Tom replied, his voice low. "But it's coming from the direction of the field." Without thinking, they moved toward the door, compelled by an unseen force. The night air was cool against their skin, charged with an electric energy that made every hair stand on end. As they stepped outside, the sound grew louder, a chorus of vibrations that resonated in their bones, pulling them toward the edge of the familiar. The field stretched before them, bathed in moonlight, but the shadows felt more profound, more alive. The air shifted, thick with anticipation, and the distant hum transformed into a series of pulsating beats that synchronized with their hearts. They stood at the threshold of something vast and unknown, the cosmos whispering its secrets just beyond the veil of their understanding. "Are you ready?" Tom asked, his voice barely a whisper, filled with both fear and wonder. Sarah nodded, her eyes shining with something akin to determination. "We have to know what's happening. We can't ignore it." With that, they stepped forward, the weight of the unknown pressing against them, urging them to uncover the mysteries that lay within the field. Mysteries that promised to unravel the very fabric of their reality and reveal a cosmos filled with wonders beyond their wildest dreams. As they ventured deeper into the field, the moonlight painted the landscape in a surreal palette of silvers and shadows, each blade of grass glistening like tiny stars against the night. The air held a palpable tension, thick and electric, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Every step they took sent ripples through the grass, which swayed in a rhythm that felt impossibly synchronized with the pulsating hum that resonated from the earth beneath their feet. Tom and Sarah exchanged wary glances, each heartbeat echoing the undulating sound that seemed to rise and fall like a cosmic tide. The hum was no longer merely a sound. It had morphed into a tangible presence, wrapping around them like a warm embrace, pulling them closer to whatever lay at the heart of the field. The shadows danced in peculiar ways, flickering at the edges of their vision, almost as if they were alive, beckoning them to step further into the unknown. "Do you feel that?" Sarah's voice trembled slightly, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. The ground beneath them thrummed, a deep vibration that resonated through their bones, urging them onward. There was a distinct shift in the atmosphere, a weightless quality that made the air feel almost liquid. It was intoxicating, yet terrifying. The field was transforming into a realm of possibilities where reality intertwined with the extraordinary. As they approached the center of the field, the pulsating hum crescendoed, enveloping them in a symphony of sound that was both beautiful and overwhelming. The lights they had seen earlier flickered at the edges of their vision, swirling in patterns that seemed to defy the laws of nature. Each flash was a brushstroke on the canvas of the night, painting an intricate design that teased the edges of their comprehension. There was geometry in the air, a mathematical precision that hinted at a higher intelligence orchestrating this phenomenon. Suddenly, the hum shifted, morphing into a series of sharp tones that echoed like a cosmic heartbeat. The ground trembled beneath them, and for a fleeting moment, the world around them felt suspended in time. They could hear their own breaths, quick and shallow, mingling with the otherworldly sounds that danced around them. Tom felt a chill race up his spine, the primal instinct to flee battling against an insatiable curiosity that pulled him deeper into the mystery. "Look," Sarah gasped, pointing toward a section of the field where the grass seemed to bend in a deliberate pattern, forming a shape that was undeniably geometric, a swirling spiral that emerged from the earth as if sculpted by invisible hands. It pulsated with an iridescent glow, casting an ethereal light that illuminated their faces. The sight was both mesmerizing and unsettling, a stark reminder that they stood on the threshold of something far beyond their understanding. "Is it a crop circle?" Tom whispered, barely able to process the sight before him. The formation was unlike anything he had ever seen, its complexity defying explanation. The plants were bent gracefully, each stalk warping without breaking, creating a perfect design that seemed to shift and shimmer under the moonlight. It was beautiful yet ominous, a testament to the presence that had brushed against the fabric of their reality. The air crackled with energy, and Tom felt a pressure building, as if the very atmosphere was alive with anticipation. Sounds of nature faded into the background, and suddenly, all he could hear was the rhythmic thrum that resonated from the spiral, a call that beckoned them to draw closer. It was a sound that spoke of ancient knowledge, of secrets waiting to be unveiled. The world around them faded, and in that moment it felt as though they stood at the center of the universe, poised on the brink of discovery. "Do you think anyone else has seen this?" Sarah's voice broke through the haze, a tremor of uncertainty woven through her words. "What if we're not supposed to be here?" Tom shook his head, his gaze fixed on the spiral. "We have to find out what it means. We can't turn back now." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fears and the weight of their decision to pursue the unknown. The hum grew louder, wrapping around them like a warm blanket, as if encouraging them to step forward. As they approached the spiral, the light intensified, casting elongated shadows that twisted and warped around them. The temperature dropped suddenly, a cold breath sweeping across the field, sending shivers down their spines. A low, vibrating pulse echoed through the ground, and they both felt an undeniable shift. A moment where reality fractured slightly, revealing glimpses of something else, something beyond the tangible. "Can you see that?" Sarah's voice trembled as she pointed toward a flicker of movement just beyond the spiral. A shadow shifted, momentarily coalescing into a form that felt both familiar and alien, a silhouette that danced at the periphery of their vision, elusive and fleeting. What was that? Tom's heart raced, the grip of fear tightening around him. The figure was gone before he could fully process what he had seen, leaving only the sensation of being watched, the oppressive weight of an unseen presence lingering in the air. It was a reminder that they were not alone in this field, that there were forces at play that surpassed their understanding. "Maybe we should go back," Sarah murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, the uncertainty creeping into her tone. But even as she spoke, the draw of the spiral was undeniable, a siren song that called to them, promising answers to questions they hadn't yet dared to ask. Tom's resolve hardened. "We can't turn back now. We need to understand what's happening." As he stepped closer to the spiral, the hum morphed into a melody, a haunting tune that resonated deep within his soul, awakening something primal and ancient. The sound enveloped them, wrapping around their senses, and for a moment they felt suspended in time, caught in the delicate balance between fear and wonder, the cosmos whispering secrets just beyond their grasp. "What do you think is happening here?" he asked, glancing at Sarah, his voice steady despite the turmoil swirling within him. The question lingered in the air, an invitation for her to explore the depths of their shared experience, to ponder the mysteries that lay before them. The night was alive with possibilities, and they could either succumb to fear or embrace the wonder of the unknown. As dawn's first light barely grazed the horizon, illuminating the crumpled earth of the cornfield, a palpable sense of anticipation hung thick in the air. The spiral, now fully revealed in the fading darkness, seemed to pulse with life, its intricate geometry both mesmerizing and foreboding. Tom and Sarah stood transfixed, their hearts synchronizing with the low, vibrating pulse that emanated from the ground beneath their feet. The sound coursed through them, an uninvited guest that made them acutely aware of the fragile boundary between reality and the unknown. Every aspect of the spiral felt alive. The air was charged with an electric hum, a sound that resonated in their bones, and the grass around them shimmered as if reacting to an unseen force. The light, soft yet unnaturally bright, had a quality that defied natural explanation, casting elongated shadows that seemed to dance and shift with a mind of their own. As Sarah's fingers brushed against the cool, dew-soaked blades of grass, she could feel a warmth radiating from the earth, a stark contrast to the chilly morning air that enveloped them. "Tom, look at the plants," she whispered, her voice quivering with a mix of awe and fear. The cornstalks surrounding the spiral were bent at impossible angles, twisting gracefully yet remaining unbroken, an artistry of nature and something else, something otherworldly. Each stalk seemed to form part of a grand design, a puzzle that beckoned them closer, enticing them deeper into its enigmatic embrace. The melody that had once been a faint echo now surged forward, growing louder, a haunting symphony of tones that felt as if it was composed of the very essence of the cosmos. It was a sound that transcended language, evoking memories of forgotten dreams and ancient tales. Tom's heart raced with both excitement and dread as they stood on the precipice of understanding, yet still so far from the truth. "Can you hear it?" he asked, his voice barely more than a breath, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the delicate atmosphere. Sarah nodded, captivated, yet her eyes darted nervously around them, searching for the source of that primal tune. It felt alive, almost sentient, an invitation wrapped within a warning. Suddenly a gust of wind swept through the field, carrying with it an unsettling cacophony of whispers. It was as if the very earth was speaking, murmuring secrets in a language older than time. The shadows flickered again, darting just beyond their peripheral vision, always teasing, always just out of reach. Each flicker sent a shiver down Sarah's spine, the sensation of being observed swelling to an unbearable crescendo. "Tom," she breathed, her voice trembling as her eyes widened. "What if we're not alone out here?" The words hung in the air, laden with the weight of what they both felt. A deep, instinctual understanding that something was watching, something that transcended their comprehension. Tom's stomach twisted at the thought, but he steeled himself. "We have to figure this out. We can't leave without knowing what this is." The determination in his voice masked the fear clawing at the edges of his mind. He took a step forward, and the spiral seemed to respond, the whispers crescendoing into an almost tangible presence, wrapping around them like a shroud. As he moved closer, the air thickened, heavy with a metallic scent that filled his lungs and made his heart race. The light shifted, casting a spectral glow over the ground, illuminating the delicate patterns etched in the earth. Each curve and angle of the spiral seemed to pulse with significance, a cosmic riddle awaiting discovery. "Look!" Sarah exclaimed, suddenly pointing at the center of the spiral. There, nestled within the intricate design, was a small, shimmering object. It glinted under the strange light, catching their attention like a beacon. The closer they moved, the more they could see it was not a simple stone or natural artifact. It was something crafted, something undeniably extraordinary. As they approached, the vibrations intensified, resonating through the air and into their very souls. Tom reached down to touch the object, and as his fingers grazed its surface, a shockwave coursed through him. He gasped, a flood of images and sensations overwhelming his mind, visions of stars, of distant worlds, of an intelligence that felt both alien and achingly familiar. It's like it's communicating with me," he stammered, his breath hitching as he pulled his hand back, more in shock than in fear. The object seemed to pulse in response, emitting a low hum that harmonized with the melody surrounding them. Sarah stepped closer, her apprehension mingling with curiosity. "What does it want?" she whispered, her voice trembling as she reached out her hand to join his. In that moment, the air around them thickened, and the shadows coalesced, forming a silhouette that felt like a living presence. It was there, in the periphery, a shape that ebbed and flowed like smoke, never fully materializing, yet imbued with a sense of awareness. "What do you think it is?" Tom asked, his eyes wide, each heartbeat echoing the rhythm of fear and fascination within him. The question hung in the air, a challenge to the cosmos itself, an invitation to the unknown that lay just beyond their grasp. The spiral pulsed again, responding to their fear, their wonder, and the tension in the air felt almost tangible. The whispers grew louder, swirling around them like a tempest, creating a cocoon of sound and light that threatened to pull them deeper into the mystery. Whatever was happening here, whatever had drawn them to this field, was far from over. As they stood on the brink of revelation, gazing into the depths of the spiral and the shadows that flickered just beyond, a chilling realization dawned upon them. The night may have revealed an extraordinary phenomenon, but it had also awakened something dormant, something that was not yet ready to be understood. "Do you feel that?" Sarah asked, her voice a mere whisper against the rising storm. "It's not finished with us." The air crackled with energy, and Tom nodded slowly, the weight of her words sinking in. They were caught in a web of cosmic intrigue, and the threads were tightening. Whatever awaited them in the hours to come, they would have to confront it together, standing firm against the shadows that whispered secrets of an unfathomable universe. As the sun began to rise, casting a pale light over the field, they both knew one thing with unwavering certainty. This was just the beginning. What they had uncovered was merely a fragment of a larger tapestry, a glimpse into the mysteries that lay hidden beneath the surface of their reality. And the echoes of that cosmic call would haunt them long after they left the field, beckoning them back to the unknown. As dawn's first light began to creep over the horizon, painting the once shadowy field in hues of muted gold and soft lavender, Tom and Sarah stood transfixed, their hearts still racing with the remnants of adrenaline. They had witnessed something that night, something that felt like a breach between dimensions. And now, with the sun rising, the world around them seemed to exhale. But the tension within them remained palpable. The field, now illuminated, revealed its secrets in fleeting glimpses. Each blade of grass glistened with dew, yet the air felt thick with an unshakable unease. The spiral, still etched in their minds, had transformed from a phenomenon of darkness into a memory woven with light, yet its essence lingered. The geometric precision of its form was a riddle they could not solve, a whisper of intelligence that seemed to beckon them closer. It was as if the field itself was alive, breathing in sync with their wonder and fear, resonating with the echoes of something ancient. A chill ran down Sarah's spine and she glanced around, half expecting the silhouette to materialize amidst the morning mist, still watching, still waiting. "Tom, do you think it's gone?" Her voice trembled, each word a fragile thread woven into the tapestry of their shared experience. The question hung in the air like a specter, a haunting reflection of the uncertainty that had taken root in their hearts. "I don't know," he replied, his gaze sweeping over the expanse of the field. The air felt charged, electric, as if the very atmosphere was holding its breath. He could feel it, the faint pulse of something just beneath the surface, a rhythm that matched the quickening of his pulse. It was a sound that was less auditory and more visceral, reverberating through the ground beneath their feet, resonating in their bones. As they walked further into the field, the silence felt oppressive, almost alive. The rising sun cast long shadows that danced along the rows of corn, but the stillness of the air was deceptive. The wind, which had been so restless the night before, was now eerily calm, creating an unsettling juxtaposition against the chaotic energy they had just experienced. It was as if nature itself was holding back, waiting for something to unfold. "Do you smell that?" Sarah's senses sharpened as a metallic tang filled the air, mingling with the earthy scent of damp soil. It was a smell that tugged at the corners of her memory, invoking a sense of familiarity that was both comforting and disconcerting. Tom nodded, inhaling deeply. "It's like the air after a storm," he murmured, his brows furrowing. The atmosphere felt thick, charged with expectations, as if they were on the brink of a revelation that would unlock the mysteries of the universe. Yet, beneath that anticipation lay a current of dread, a whisper of warning that echoed in the recesses of their minds. The very ground they stood upon felt sacred, a threshold between the known and the unfathomable. Suddenly, without warning, a low hum filled the air, vibrating through the soil and up into their bodies. It was a sound that resonated deep within, a frequency that seemed to awaken something dormant in their souls. They exchanged a glance, eyes wide with a mix of trepidation and curiosity. The hum grew louder, pulsating like a heartbeat, rhythmic and insistent, drawing them closer to the center of the field where the spiral had formed. "Is it coming back?" Sarah whispered, the words barely escaping her lips. The hum enveloped them, wrapping around their thoughts like a shroud, and in that moment, they felt the undeniable pull of something greater than themselves, a force that transcended the boundaries of their understanding. Tom took a step forward, compelled by the magnetic energy that seemed to emanate from the center of the spiral. "We have to see it. We have to know what it means," he urged, his voice steady yet laced with an undercurrent of fear. There was a gravity to the situation, a sense that they were not merely observers but participants in a cosmic dance, and the rhythm was leading them deeper into the unknown. As they approached the heart of the field, the hum crescendoed, morphing into a symphony of sound that resonated with their very essence. It was a sound that felt alive, a chorus of whispers that spoke of ancient knowledge and forgotten truths. The spiral, now faintly shimmering in the morning light, appeared to pulse in tune with the growing intensity of the hum, as if acknowledging their presence, inviting them to unlock the secrets it harbored. "Tom, do you think we're ready for this?" Sarah's voice trembled, her heart racing as the spiral loomed closer, its geometry both mesmerizing and intimidating. She felt the weight of the moment, the enormity of the choice before them. To step closer was to embrace the unknown, to dive into a mystery that defied explanation. But Tom, fueled by a mix of courage and desperation, reached out, gripping her hand tightly. "We can't turn back now. We need to face this together," he said, determination flooding his voice. It was a promise, a vow to confront whatever lay ahead, no matter how daunting. As they stood at the precipice of revelation, the hum transformed into a cacophony of sound, a swirling vortex of frequencies that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of reality. They could feel it now, a presence that was not just in the air around them, but within them, intertwining with their thoughts, their fears, their hopes. The spirals began to shimmer with an otherworldly light, casting elongated shadows that danced around them, creating an illusion of movement, of life. In that moment, Time seemed to stretch, each heartbeat echoing the urgency of the moment. The world around them faded into insignificance as they stood on the brink of something monumental. And then, at the very edge of their perception, they glimpsed it, a detail hidden within the spiral, a symbol that pulsed with a rhythm of its own. It was a geometric pattern, intricate and impossibly precise, almost as if it were breathing, alive in a way that was beyond their comprehension. "Look," Sarah gasped, pointing toward the center. The symbol shimmered, revealing layers of meaning that felt both ancient and extraterrestrial, an invitation to explore the depths of the cosmos. But as they stared, captivated, another realization hit them. The spiral was not just a phenomenon, it was a message, a beacon that had been waiting for them, for someone to understand. But just as they began to comprehend its significance, the hum shifted, transforming into a piercing silence that enveloped them, a void that felt both unsettling and profound. The light from the spiral dimmed, and shadows swirled around them, coalescing into a shape that felt familiar yet alien. The silhouette hovered at the edge of their vision, a reminder that they were not alone in their quest for understanding. The realization washed over them like a wave. This was not the end. The spiral had awakened something, and the shadows were not merely observers. They were participants in a cosmic game that transcended time and space. As fear coiled around their hearts like a serpent, they understood one vital truth. The mystery was alive, and they were now part of its unfolding narrative. "Tom," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling with the weight of understanding. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Tom nodded slowly, the implications settling in like a heavy fog. They had entered a realm where the boundaries of reality blurred, where the whispers of the cosmos beckoned them ever deeper into the unknown. The spiral had drawn them into its web, and they could feel the threads tightening around them, binding them to a fate intertwined with the mysteries of the universe. As the day broke fully, casting a golden hue over the field, Tom and Sarah turned back, each step echoing with the promise of more to come. The sun illuminated their path, but the shadows loomed large, and the whispers of the cosmic call sang in their ears, urging them to return, to delve deeper into the enigmas of existence. And as they walked away, a lingering sensation settled in their bones, a knowing that the field would forever be a part of them, a connection to something greater, something that would continue to unfold in the chapters yet unwritten. The echoes of the cosmic fields would haunt them, a reminder that the adventure had only just begun and the mysteries of the universe awaited their return. "Remember this," Tom said softly, glancing back at the field. "We're not finished yet." With that, they stepped into the light of a new day, the promise of the unknown ahead, their hearts racing with anticipation for the next revelation, the next encounter that would pull them deeper into the enigma of existence, forever entwined with the echoes of the cosmic fields.